Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everybody. I wish all of you fine, inshallah. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Zaidan. I'm a lecturer here in African University and more than one university in Tripoli and out of Tripoli. I've of course I got a master degree in English education, a bachelor degree in English literature. So I'm going to teach you literary criticisms. I wish you will enjoy your class with me. So as you see from this photo which is in front of you in the first slide, as you see that there are many people here, they are trying to do a lot of things. So when you just hear this word comes in your mind, literary criticism, of course you are going to critic something. You are not going to critic someone with his appearance. No, not. You are going to critic someone's work. You are critic some plays. You are getting critic some poems and so on. So as you see here, they are mashallah many people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everyone, I wish all of you fine. First of all, let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Zeidan. I'm a lecturer here in African University and more than one university. Of course, I have master degree in English education and bachelor degree in English literature. And what else? So I'm going to teach you in literary criticism. Yes, it's kind of literature, so it's not that difficult. It's just need you to focus and understand clearly. Try to concentrate in every single word. So I know that most of the students hate literature in general, and they just said, okay, we just wanted to pass it, no need to understand it. No, I just advised you to try to understand it. It's very easy. I'm trying to make the curriculum, it's simple. I'm trying the best. I did the best to make it simple for you and you could understand it clearly. So I'm sure that you'll enjoy the class with me. So let's start. Before I tell you about the course description and so on, let's see first a little bit about this book. So as you see, there are many people here. Someone tries to cut the bait. Yep, so after I already introduced myself in the first slide, so as I told you, you are going to take with me literary criticism, or what we called critical literature. It's very... so here the course description. So you are going to take with me in the first lecture, which is today. We are going to talk about the introduction to literary criticism and its history. For next class, more biographical and type criticisms, psychological, formal, and Marxist theories. And for the fourth class, we're gonna take modern, postmodern, and deconstruction theories. Then structuralism, both structuralism and feminism, and post-colonial eco-centric and Aquaria theories. So that's all what we are going to take with me during these 6 or 7 weeks. So don't focus more with the next classes. So you should take the classes with me one by one. So today we are going to talk about the introduction to literary criticism and its history. So I collected some information from more than one book, but I just type here. I just type one book, which is much more important than the other books. So no need to read the book. Just need to understand every slide that I'm gonna show you next. So as I told you that the course materials, until now for the first lecture, I just used this book, which is Literary Theories by Thierry. So just this box for this book just for the first lecture. So maybe the next and third lecture I'm gonna find another books. I just choose this book because it's very easy, and the way that they introduce the literary criticism is very basic and very typical, for the basic students like you in literature. For course requirements, so as usual, midterm exam 40 and final exam 60 marks. So maybe we're gonna change the marks. Maybe we divide the 40 marks for half for assignments and half for the midterm. I'm not sure yet. We will see later on. So just for the first three lectures, we could not take any decision. After 3 lectures, inshallah, we will try to choose assignment or try to find another way to collect the scores. But please don't worry about scores. Don't worry about scores. Just understand what I'm going to teach for you. Introduction. So we're gonna talk about literary criticism. So we should talk such an overview about it. So for century, literary criticism was considered as an art of writing poetry. Of course, 100%. That's literary criticism. It's not nowadays literature. It's a very old literature since 17th century. So was an advice to the poet rather than the reader. So such this, critic. So when you are going to critic the other's author or the authors or I mean some stories or plays. So the benefit it's not for you, it's for the writer. The writer, the poet itself, going to know what's the weak, the weak keys that he used while he's writing his story or poet or whatever. So advice to the poet rather than the reader. Just focus on this. The second line is very important. So it was an advice for who? For the poet rather than the reader. Also, literary criticism has been applied since when? Since when? It's a very important too. It's a very necessary to know this literary criticism is applied since when? Since 17th century to the description, justification, analysis or judgment of works, arts. So as I told before that in literary criticism you are going to critic, you are going to judge, you are going to give your point of view. Not always, not always your critic will be negative. Sometimes it is positive. So you just said, okay, this play is good, but you need to support by some proofs. You need to make it fact. You need to make it a reality for life. So not always the critic is negative. Sometimes it's positive. And also some critics has talked about theoretical and practical or applied criticism. So as you see, the last 2 lines, it's red. It's red color. It means it's important to know that theoretical criticism attempts to arrive at the general principle of art, but rather than that the practical criticism applies this principle to the work of art. So from this slide, you should know that when exactly this kind of critical criticism starts, when applied, when, in which year. So you are going to mention that it's applied since the 17th century. 17th century. So you are going to such this critical criticisms. So you are going to judge the work of art. Not you are going to judge the appearance or the author's face or the way that he wrote or the lines or whatever. No, you are going to critique his work, judge his work. So the last 2 lines is very important, and also you should memorize the year since when they applied such literary criticisms. Now, yes, now coming in and stay with me.
and facts with me. So you need to know a little bit about the history of literary criticism. You know that literary criticism, I'm sure that you do know, that begins in Greek, you know. It's a start, the first one who make a such a literary criticism or critic something, it's a start from when? Where exactly? With the Greek, but little of their works has survived, unfortunately. Then here Aristophanes is mostly devoted to drama, and Plato theories of literature are scarcely literary criticism. So when you just find such this questions, so you will say that the literary criticism begins with the Greek. With who? With the Greek. Then you are going to mention that Aristophanes is mostly devoted to drama, and Plato theories of literature for literary criticisms. And then what's literary criticism? So you need to know the definition. Actually, there are many definitions for literary criticism. It's all up to you, up to your mind, how you are going to memorize it, to understand it, or whatever. So when you face such these questions in the midterm or final exam, so you have two choices. One, just memorize it as it is, and second choice, understand it. Then I'm not really care about how do you manage your answer. The goal that you send me the idea maybe by explaining, by understanding or whatever. So here the literary criticism, you see that sometimes the word criticism puts people off. Yep, puts people off. Yep. So when you just hear that maybe someone going to critique you, what do you feel? You feel sad, right? Or you feel depressed? No, not like that. يعني I'm sure إن لو مجرد ما تسمعوا كلمة critic نقد directly انتوا شو يصير للناس؟ يصير لهم off، إنه هو زي يبدو خايفين حزينين، ما عادش يقدروا يعطوا أكتر لأن في someone going to critique me, so that's why I couldn't. لا. هو because in everybody or everyday use it in a negative negative way. That's why. So we usually think of critic as a kind of grumpy person who seems to access slowly to find problems and stress faults. يعني هنايا we cannot say that when you just say that I'm going to critic someone, so such this word it puts people off. And I agree 100%. But such this critic, it will do what? I'm sorry. It will find problems and stress faults. So while you are going to critic, someone is poetry, or someone is a story, or someone is a play. So in that way, in that case, you are going to find the problems and stress faults. So you are going to help the poets who write this, who write already this story or this play. So you are going to help the writer to improve himself, to improve his writing, to improve the way that he thinks, and so on. So as I said, that we usually think of critic as a kind of grumpy person who seems to exist slowly to find what? To find and stress faults. Yep. So that's the meaning of literary criticism. So as you see, there are stars here, right? 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, then the best, so terrible. The thing that I want you to know that literary criticism is not like that at all. It's not like that. This is typical for sports writing that you see in movies or sometimes in other in book reviews. It's not related with literary criticism at all. So you are not some the other is not going to evaluate your critic way with such these stars at all. Everyone has his own lens, right? Everyone has his own eye. Everyone has his own mind. Everyone has his own way to thinking about things, right? So we couldn't say that this student is a critic as other one. No. All critics when you are going to write some story or play, you wouldn't say that's the best, that's so on, that's terrible. No, I don't. Everyone has his own lens, so everyone has his own way to express the others and where it starts. So such deep start is such there is such a deep depth of start is doesn't related with critical I'm sure me, for example, as I have my own opinion, my own knowledge, which is different than the others. So we couldn't say there is nothing called best, so terrible. No, at all. This is in you, for example, when you just watch a video in the future, you just put your rating. 2 stars, 3 stars, or for example when you watch a movie and you like the movie too much, or you put the best 3 stars. But in critical character or literary criticism, there isn't such a stars at all. So everyone has his own lens, as I said before. So such deep stars are not related to the critical literature at all. Okay, so as you see here, there are two boxes. The first one, primary source, and secondary source. So of course you're asking yourself, what are these? So as you know that when you have a primary source, original one. So here there are the personal thing, that's the place or short story, or even the post that was written years ago. So it's a source, it's the original. The primary source, it means it's the original source, which has been written years ago. So and also you have secondary source, and secondary source is something that analyze or interpret, that create, that we think of this child during 2010. So that's all that is like what you have been doing already in your journal discussion board. So you have a short story and you interpret it again for the reader. You already have a short story, or you already have a poem, or you already have a play, and you are going to interpret it again for the reader. So your discussion board is already assigned to the presentation. So primary source and secondary source. Primary source, it's original one الأصل يعني الأصل بتاع الكاتب الأصلي هو اللي يسموه المصدر الأولي الأساسي. أما secondary source هذا yours، هذا لكم أنتم طبعا اللي for those who are going to critic that primary resource. So when you are such, for example, you have a short story, so you make such interpreting for who? For the. So while you are going to critic the primary resource, you are going to show me your point of view. You are going sometimes to summarize it. You are going to put your touch on it. You are going to put your critic way or your touch on it. So primary resource and secondary source, as you see here, that there are both definitions and characteristics, then examples, So you should memorize it. You should memorize it when you just face a question and I ask you, what's the meaning of primary resource? Resources, or what's the meaning of secondary sources? So you will directly give me definitions. It's very important. So let's start by primary sources. Primary sources, as I say, it's the original one. Raw data, original sources of information before it has been analyzed. So it's as it is. But secondary source, when someone pick up this story or pick up this poem and try to critic it, to interpret it for the reader. So definitions of secondary sources. Sources that analyze or interpret primary data, then they don't offer new evidence. Okay. For characteristics, as you see, for primary source, it's first-hand observation. First one wrote it. It's called primary source. And for characteristic, it's interpretation, information you are going to interpret. For example, of course, you study reading and comprehension skill. In reading comprehension skill, you have such a paragraph. Then your teacher going to ask you, please read this paragraph and try to interpret it for me. Yeah, that's kind of interpreting. So interpreting is related with literary criticisms. So, because I try to do the best to let you understand and to make it for you as simple, really, I did the best. So, this is another meaning or another definition for literary criticism. Here, they said that literary criticism, writing that analyze, evaluate, interpret, and criticize literature. As I told you, that you are going to critique something, it means you are going to evaluate him. Not evaluate him by stars, which is, you say that's the best, so terrible. No, you are going to evaluate him or evaluate the writer or evaluate the first source, the primary source, by saying the negative and the weakness, the strongest, and the way that he wrote it. Then you are going to interpret. So, for example, I don't know anything about the primary source. There is a short story, and I am one of the audience, and I don't know anything about the short story. So you are going to interpret it for me to let me understand it. But you are going to interpret it by your touch, you know. There are many different, different critical approaches that writers use when discussing literary. Those approaches, what's the benefit of those approaches? We need to know the benefit. Look at the stories through different filters. So, a writer focuses on particular aspects of the story. The writer discovers something new, different, or important. So, when I just ask you for the last 3 lines, I ask you what's the benefit, why we should use approaches, why there is approach, or why there are approaches in literary criticism. You will say the benefit or the reason of having these approaches to look at the stories through different filters, and the writer focuses on a particular aspect of the story to what? To discover something new, different, or important. I wish that you understand it. You should understand, not memorize. If you memorize this question, you will not remember it in the exam. But if you understand it as the way that I explain it to you, of course, 100% it will stay in your mind. You see, so what's in her mind? What do you think? What's in her mind? You couldn't know what's in her mind unless she wrote something. So you are going to critique her according of her story, or of her short story, or of her play, or of her poetry, or what else. So we couldn't critique the others from outside. No, we need to know what's in her mind. We could know what's in her mind. How? By the way that she wrote her story or her play. And what about this one too? We couldn't say that he has a hair like lion or brown eyes or whatever. No, it's not a critic. You are going to critique the other's work, artwork, not appearance. So we couldn't critique him like that. Instead of he must wrote something, story or poetry or drama or whatever. So that's kind of a literary criticism. We are going to critique the other's work. The other is the way that he wrote his story and so on. Yep. So as you see that there are many books here, in the eye just for books, and in the ear, in the mind, and so on. So I just want you to manage to organize your idea like that. Organize your idea the same this book. You should understand me step by step, every single word, to could manage or organize your mind such these facts. If you don't care about the class and you keep it at the end to just watch the videos just on one time, 3 or 4 or 5 videos or what else, I'm sure 100% you couldn't pass this subject. Such these materials, it need understanding one by one, not memorizing. You should understand, not memorize, okay? So come on here, come here. So careerisms, when you hear careerisms, oh, careerisms. Oh my goodness, someone going to critic me. Oh, I'm afraid, no. You might automatically think about pointing out weakness or failures. Yes, because someone going to critic me, so he will say to me, you are bad. The way that you write is bad. I couldn't understand what you mean by this story or whatever. So, however, criticism can be favorable as well as unfavorable. However, criticism can be favorable as well as unfavorable. Okay, we can put a title for this slide. We can say what's the benefit of using literary criticism. Yes, if you find such these questions, what's the benefit of using literary criticism, or why we should use literary criticism, or what's the benefit? So you said that you should say that literary criticism helps interpret the meaning of short story, poem, or play. Literary criticism is an attempt to understand and also, so you understand, then you evaluate what the author and then literary criticism of work usually offers what? Interpretation. What's the meaning of interpretation? You are going to interpret the meaning. Then analysis of the structure and style, the structure from outside and the style of short story or book. Judgment of its worth by comparison with other works. So when you are going to judge the writer's work, you should compare it with the other's work. For example, Aya's short story is much more better than, for example, Ahmed's story. Why? You are going to judge by works. For example, Aya's story is very touchable and very fact and reality, but Ahmed's short story is a play. It's a fake. It's something from the imagination, and we couldn't use our imagination while I'm reading, while I'm trying to interrupt such this work. Also, the last one, estimation of its likely effect on the reader. So there are many short stories and there are many plays. Of course, not all of it, it touches your heart. Not all of it could affect your attention. So also you should focus on it, that if this story it catches your attention and makes you feel what every lines it touches your heart, it means it's called what? Estimation. Yep, estimation. So interpretation, analysis, judgment, and estimation. So here, literary criticism can be applied to I can apply my critic for what? For who? For what kind of literature? For genre, an author is writing as a whole, aspect literary work. So this question is very important. Literary criticism can be applied to who? To what? To what kind of literary? For genre, Authors writing a whole and specific literary work. Yep, hello again. I'm sure that you feel boring and you said, oh my god, she's so talkative and she's talking a lot and we couldn't understand anything. But hey guys, I just want you to try to love it, try to understand it. It's very easy. I make it simple. I make it simple for you to and I would just find to make you understand it clearly. So don't say it's boring, just understanding. So, come on. The critical process basic steps. There are 4 steps. 4 steps. First, understanding, then analyzing, then interpretation, then evaluation. So let's start by understanding what the text says. Wow, she really gets that. The box begins with and then and in the end. انت هنا شن ولا انت شن قاعدين تديروا فيه understanding. بتفهموا انت طبعا او انت already read it, great already short story وبجاي بتدير لها critic. فانت شن بتجيب بتفهم الاودينس التانيين اللي يسمعوا فيه. that's what we call understanding what the text says. التكست شنو يقول, story شنو يقول. Number 2, analyzing literary elements. It's very important, such as plot, a character, point of view, symbolism, irony, and so on. Character, a concept itself, المحتوى. طبعا انتوا شو بتديروا الاناليز الاليمنت العناصر المهمه اللي هو بتشوفوا الكاركتر, البلوت, البليس, كذلك المكان اساسا اللي صار فيه when the writer going to write something, he wrote it in a suitable place, كاتبها في مكان معين. الشخص I'm sorry مش نتكلم بالعربي, خلينا in English is better. A character, also the plot, a concept, all of those are called elements. So you are going to what? The process steps is understanding, analyzing, then interpreting and evaluation. Let's go to the interpreting and evaluation. So number 3, interpreting the literature by making broad observation or generalization of the theme. Then number 4, evaluating the literature, which is very clear, by applying specific criteria. Okay, so those are the 4 basic steps. Okay, so here, who's the father of literary criticism? The father of literary criticism called John Dryden. It's called, considered as the father of English criticism. He was the first teach to the English people to determine the merit compositions upon principles. Okay, so when you face such these questions, who is the father of literary criticism, you will say it's John Dryden. Okay. Here we need to know why is historical criticism important. Why? I'm sorry, here the primary, not he primary. I'm sorry, it's my mistake. I'm really sorry. So the primary goal of historical criticism is to what? To discover the text is what? Primitive or original meaning in its original historical context and its literary sense or senses of literary historical. The secondary goal, so here there are 2 goals. Secondary goal seeks to establish what? Are constructions of historical symbols of the author and receptions of the text. So here in this slide, it's very important to know the primary goal and the secondary goal of historical. Important. Why important? Important for 2 goals, primary goal and secondary goal. Here, what purpose does literary criticism serve? What purpose? So literary criticism helps to explain a work. Explain what? Explain a work. Not explain the other's appearance. Explain a work and its underlying principles to readers. who may not fully understand the text. Purpose of literary criticism يساعد شنو انك انت تشرح على العمل هذا العمل الدرامي او الشورت ستوري، انك انت تدير underline، بتحدد البرنسبلز، العناصر اللي من اللي بتحددهم للي بيقرا اللي هو اساسا مش فاهم هذا النص على شنو. Okay. Literary criticism helps to explain a work and underlying principles to reader who may not fully understand the text. This lovely boy, this handsome boy with sunglasses or with medical glasses, I'm having a little difficult with what? Hemingway's is a farewell to arms. هذا طبعا عنده some difficulties، فأنتم criticism, literary criticism going to make it sample for him. So here, what purpose does literary criticism serve? Literary criticism helps interpret works to a reader who might otherwise fail to understand or appreciate them. First face, shock it and say, oh my goodness. Without literary criticism before، لما ما كانش في literary criticism كان مجرد ما هم يجوا ياخدوا short story ولا الpoet ولا الplay they directly feel depressed أو disappointment، يعني خيبة أمل، وكيف يعني بنفهموا هذا too much papers و complicated words. لكن لما with literary criticism so smiling and understand anything. I'm sure that if you read the short story or the play by yourself from the first source or the primer source that you couldn't understand and you stop reading it. But when you read it from the second resource or second source by using literary criticism, you feel so happy and you will understand. So that's the purpose of literary criticism. Also, literary criticism helps discover. Oh my goodness, discover how? What I'm going to discover? You are going to discover the whole idea of the short story and applying principles that describe good literature. So, as you see in this fact, say bad, good. It doesn't mean he is, just critic by saying giving stars. No, bad or good. So how bad and how good? He's going to critic with more details. So here literary criticism examines شنو؟ examines what? Examines culture, politics, gender, female, male, popular ideologies, history, psychologies, authors' lives. So that's the literary criticism going to examine culture, politics, gender, popular ideologies, history, psychology, and authors' lives by using interpretation of the literature. And also literary criticism helps establish clearly defined standards of evaluation. Yani when you are going to evaluate according to the character, to plot, to whatever, so you are going to make such this list and tick, tick, tick. So don't afraid and say to yourself, oh my goodness, you are going to critic something. No, no, no. It's not time for a critic now, just time for understanding the meaning of literary criticism, history, and the purpose and the elements. So you should just understand all those things. Don't worry about the future classes. Don't worry. First of all, it's comprehension. It's just understanding the basic, the elements. We have to take an overview about literary criticism. You are not going to critic any story or poems or plays. Yep, so that's the end of our class today. I should understand every single slide. I tried to make it simple for you to could understand it clearly. So here we are. First of all, you should memorize it all. I mean understand it all. And then after that, if you have any comments or any point of view or any suggestions, inshallah next class I'll put my WA number and also my Gmail email, so you can email me whenever you want. Thank you so much. My regards, and I wish you understand every single word as I told you before. So don't worry, I just make it simple for you to love it. I'm not sure that you will love the criticism, but I'm trying to make you love it. Thank you so much, guys and girls. See you. Thank you.